Hi, in this short tutorial we will be looking at how to make blob shapes in Figma using generator. And we will look at how to make different kinds of blob shapes with varying degrees of jaggedness. So first let's delete all this. Now a blob in itself is basically a distorted circle. But to distort a circle you don't use a circle shape, you actually have to make the circle manually out of points. And so here's how we do that. We start by creating a point. Here's the point. So what we need to do now is we need to define a center. We need to move this point away from the center, and then we need to repeat this point while rotating it around the center. So let's say the center is 0. So what we need to do now is move it away from the center. So we'll say move. And we will enable show center so that we can see where the point is. And we will then start moving it, let's say, to the right. But what you can see is happening is the center is moving with the point. So if we now disable move space, what happens is the center or the pivot or the space will stay in place. So if we now move the point, you can see that the center is not moving. And so now, if we add a rotate node and also enable show center, what will happen is that as we rotate this, the point rotates around the center. If we re-enable move space here, what will happen is that the point rotates, but effectively nothing is happening, because if we hide show center, you'll see that it doesn't really matter which way the point is oriented when it's just a single point. But again, disabling move space puts the space back to the origin, and then the point rotates around that space. And now moving it away from the space, you can see that it moves in the right direction because it's already rotated. So what we do now is we decide how many points we want. Let's say we want 5 points. So we will repeat this rotation. By default it says 5, which is what we want. And let me double click this so that that's all we see. By the way, here you see that there are 10 objects. That is because we're looking at the points and their centers. So we need to disable this here. You only see the center of the last node in the chain. So for instance, this is enabled, but because this is disabled, you don't see it anymore. And we need a range because this lets us not worry about the angle. So we set the from value to start. We plug this into the angle and then we loop this. So what we have as a result are 5 points. We can increase this to more. And now what we do with these points is that we can feed them into a vector path. So we plug this into the points parameter, and that gives us a smooth curve because this is set to smooth. If we set it to linear, you see that that becomes more like a polygon. We want it to be smooth because we're after blobs. The only thing that's left to do is to say closed. Maybe give it some default stroke so that we can see what we're doing, like this. All right, so now that I have this, I would like to start distorting it. The way I do that is I need to randomize how far I move these away from the center, basically. So now I will get a random node. I will say that, so right now my radius is 243. I will say that I want it to be from between 100 and 300. And then I will just plug it in. And there you go, I got a blob. If I randomize the seed, I get a different type of blob. If I want it to be more aggressive, I can say from like 0 to 400, and then it'll be more pronounced in how varied it is. But see, 0 doesn't really work that well, I think, because then you get these weird pinched edges. So something like this, there you go, you got a bunch of blobs. Let's make it 300 again. Now, instead of this stroke, what we could do is add a gradient. And for the gradient, we can use some random colors. So let's say I need a random color preset. That's what I need. So I'm actually going to make that now. Let me say that I want to randomize on HSL. So I will have 3 of these. This will be from 0 to 360. I'm going to plug them in. I will randomize them once, and then I will save them as a template. So I say save as template, random color. And now I have it over here. I can drag out another one, which is what I need to do actually. For the, except you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to arrange them like this. I'm going to delete this one, because this way they take up a little bit less space, and then I can just clone it like so. I can say that this is my first color of the gradient, this is my second color of the gradient. And now I just need to randomize everything. I think this needs to be a radial gradient. And X has to be at 0, and this needs to be like 50. There we go. So now all these blobs are going to be filled with a gradient. And let's say I want a bunch of them. I want like 10 blobs. But I don't want them in the same place. I want them randomly distributed, so I would like move. I want to move them. And I want to put a random on the X and the Y. So let's say the random is going to go from between 0 to n1000. Same thing here. Give them different seeds and just plug them into the X and the Y. And there you go, look at that blobby goodness. So you get as many blobs as you want. Now, if these are a little bit too smooth, we can try increasing the number of points, which will make them a bit less smooth, let's say 20. There we go. So those are starting to look like paint splotches. All right, let's say you want to also randomize how many points there are to get different kinds of blobs in the same arrangement. You can do that by adding a random to this repeat. So if we plug it in right now, we will get random from 0 to 100, so some of them will be super jagged. And some of them are more all right. But actually, if you like the jagged ones, but you want these to be more smooth, what we can do is we can reduce the bias so that it prefers the smooth ones, but then it also sometimes gives you the jagged ones. There you go. Let's cycle through some random to see what we can get. So there you go, a super flexible way of making any kind of random blob shape that you need with a little help from Generator. Once again, if you like the work that I'm doing and would like to support me, the best way to do that is to buy a Generator subscription. It's less than $1 a day, and it will help me keep making all the cool stuff that I'm making. Thanks for watching.